I mean, there are some that are very obvious.
Right.
That which one is which, but
Correct.
then there's others that are not.
Correct.
So, I'm just saying, this is all very.
This is very great.
It's awesome, but also
yes.
very overwhelming.
I think Jody's enjoying this.
Second question.
I think Jody's enjoying this. All right, what else?
Okay,
I wouldn't show up otherwise.
We haven't even gotten.
Hold on 1 second, Doc. Go ahead.
My second question is, all right, if the lack of light gives the opportunity for the manifestation of bad, is it guaranteed that the lack of light will create bad?
No, absolutely not. It's just the opportunity. It's like if you're walking in the dark, are you necessarily going to trip? No.
But
there's a likely. It's right. There's a high. Exactly. It can happen then. If you're in the light and your name is not Kenzie, and you're looking where you're going, you're not going to trip. Right? It's only when you don't see things that's when these mistakes tend to happen. If we knew the outcome of everything that we did, we wouldn't make mistakes. It's the lack of light of being able to understand what the outcome of all our choices are that allows for our mistakes. All right, Doc, go ahead.
I got confused on one place where you were talking about. One time you said a light gets filtered, and then that is a setup for something bad to happen. But then another time you made it sound like Hashem is just withholding or withdrawing the light, and I wasn't sure if those two concepts were related, or was I just misunderstanding something?
Okay, no, they're very much related. The way it works is like this. Hashem has placed these kaiches, these spiritual forces in the spiritual realm between his source and us. So his light has to go through those kaiches in order to get down here into the world. Some of those kaiches are obscuring. Some of them are tinted. Some of them are a bit blocked. And they don't allow that light to go through. So by Hashem putting those particular kaiches in certain places, he is, in essence, hiding his light from us by sending it through a place that can't really receive it all. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Well, I mean, that's a big question.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that's how that works. All right. Good. Are we good?
Yeah.
Moving on?
Sure.
All right. Very good. Okay. So, Ches.
I can ask one more question if you want me to.
No, I'm good. Thanks. No, do you actually have one, or you're just gonna come up with one because you could?
Well, just piggybacking on the last thing that Jody said. Sometimes what do we call it when you might be thinking and overthinking, but then you realize that little voice inside you that's not exactly the same as self-talk. Some people call that intuition. Some people call that conscious. Some people call that Hashem. That says, well, here's the right thing to do. Why do you keep ruminating when you know this is the right thing to do? So that's a different kind of thinking, so to speak. It's not exactly the same as what she was talking about when she says you go through all these intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
Do we just say that that's Hashem talking to us? Do we say that's our conscience? What do we say in Judaism?
Okay, so every individual, every human being has two forces within him. We call them the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Tov is what gets us to do good. It is synonymous with our wisdom, and it is sourced in our neshama, which is a piece of Hashem. Then there's the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is what gets us to do things wrong, and that is synonymous with our physical selves, our bodies, the Nefesh HaBahami, as it's called. It's the animalistic soul, meaning it is the part of us that is physical. And that includes everything that's a product of the human brain, emotion as far as, the ego and the desires for honor, etc. All those things, those are all products of our physical selves. So that is the battle. The battle is always to listen to the right side. The problem is that sometimes we don't know which is the right side, because the Yetzer Hara works very hard to make us think that everything he's saying is right, when the reality is that it's not. It's just him disguising himself as the good side. So we have to work constantly to identify that which is coming from the Yetzer Hara, from the bad side, and avoid it. Now, how do you do that? Well, it takes a lot of learning. You got to spend a lot of time involving yourself in understanding these concepts and learning what's right and what's wrong, and learning some of the schemes and the plots that the Yetzer Hara uses, so you can more easily identify them and avoid them. And it also takes asking questions. Sometimes you got to ask. That's how we turn to our rabbis for direction, because oftentimes, and hopefully all the time, they have a bit of a clearer vision of these things, and especially with the fact that they're coming from the outside, and the fact that they're so well versed and saturated with Torah knowledge that allows them to identify the evil as evil much sooner than what the average eye would be able to discern. So it's a life's work. It's constantly working on yourself to learn more, to understand more, to really be honest with yourself and ask yourself, where is this motivation coming from? And to ask questions. You got to ask, and you got to ask the people who know better. And if you think that people don't know better, then that itself is a problem.
I'm sorry, say that last one again?
Saw that one coming. I said, and if you think that they don't know better, then that itself is a problem. If you think that you know better than them, then that itself is usually the core of the issue.
Sure, but I'm still asking a technical question about if somebody is overthinking something. Are you saying that the way Judaism looks at that is to say, if you're doing all this thinking and getting all confused and whatever, you can't make up your mind, isn't that the Yetzer Hara then?
It might be.
Causing you to be that way?
It might be, or it might be the Yetzer Tov.
How would it be
How
the
do you
Yetzer
know?
Tov if it's because you needed to be confused so that you could finally realize?
No, because you don't know which one's right and which one's wrong, and maybe the Yetzer Tov is trying to get you to stop making the wrong choices.
I'm sorry, you actually froze there.
How about now?
My video. No, go ahead. Just say the
Okay.
last sentence.
What I'm saying is that if you're confused about something, typically that means that you're vacillating between good and bad. You're just not sure which one's which. So that could be the Yetzer Tov trying to get you to do the right thing. It could be the Yetzer Hara trying to get you to do the wrong thing.
Okay.
It goes either way.
You don't know.
Very good.
You won't know really until you see the results.
Go ask somebody.
I'm asking you.
It depends on the case.
Yeah.
You gotta ask. You gotta ask. All right.
Okay.
So now, Ches.
I once heard a good guideline who to ask is somebody who doesn't necessarily agree with you on everything.
Well, when Jody asked me years ago, I said, you have to ask your rabbi. She's like, well, who's my rabbi? I said, well, you have to pick someone. She said, well, how do I know who to pick? And I said, you have to pick someone who you're going to listen to even if you don't agree with what they're saying.
Right.
That's how you know you got the right person.
I haven't found that person.
No, you haven't. I'll second that. All right.
Work in progress.
That would be good.
Yeah.
All right. Ches. V'tzarech sheteda. Now you have to know. Ki hine af al pi shebe'emes sibas kol inyonei hatay b'chol makom shehem. The source of everything. I'm sorry. I just went back. Need to continue from where we left off. My mistake. Let's see. Okay, Aval. Everybody got it? Aval l'pratei inyonav? Anybody got it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes? What page?
84. 84. We're in 84 now.
84? All right, everybody got it?
4 lines down.
4 lines down.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Aval. Sorry, I have a different book than everybody, so that's why I can't give you guys the pages. Aval l'pratei inyonav v'mitziyusam. But when it comes to the details of how these things are going to end up happening in reality, Hinei ha'adam baruch hu, Hashem, shehu kol yachol ve'en l'chavtzim maniyav v'lo li'yachaltei gvul klal, who can do anything at all. There is no limitation, there is no boundary to what Hashem can do. Bara shirish makar prati. Hashem made a specific root and source. Mechuven b'yatachlis hazeh, that its purpose is specifically for this, which is shal haitzas prati inyonei hara. Its purpose is to be the source of the things that are bad, the things that are wrong in the world. Kifi ma sheshara chachma al yayna, based on the way Hashem decided it should be, based on what is necessary for the person and for the world. This is what the pasuk says. Oisa Shalom Ubayre Ra. Pasuk in Yeshaya says, Hashem creates light and forms darkness. Oisa Shalom, he makes peace. Ubayre Ra, and he forms bad. So how does this work? So the way he's actually listening.
Too shy.
Okay.
Buzz it all. Just get rid of all of it.
Just don't touch the front.
I was getting ready to say
Okay, so so the wording that Ramchal is using over here from Yeshaya is that there are three steps to making something, and I will read to you straight from Rav Chaim Friedlander in English. He says as follows, based on the Gra. The very first Gra in Chumash. So he says that this Bria is creation, refers to the initial creation of a phenomenon. Forming, Yitzira, refers to the various components. And making, Asiya, refers to the completion. For example, materializing the wood for a table is the creation. Connecting the pieces together is forming. And polishing and finishing it is making. Thus, Hashem only created the initial beings from which evil could develop, but he did not directly form or make evil. Ramchal proceeds to explain this concept in the next paragraph, and he's going to, later on in the book, he's going to talk about it more. But the idea here is that the wording that's used for bad and for darkness is just the first step. It's just the creation. The ability for it to happen is there. But the actual process of it happening, that Hashem doesn't have a hand in, so to speak. That's simply Hashem's not putting all his light through, which will allow for that gray area, allow for that darkness in the world from which the bad can develop.
Wouldn't you say that about Bechira in general?
Bechira, the reason we have...
Setting up for free will, because you could have a thought, right? If I'm understanding this correctly, it's coming from Bria, is your thinking. Bria could be like a thought, but I haven't put together the specifics of it, nor have I carried it out yet. But I have the thought, the abstraction, but nothing has been fleshed out. So I still have free will here. But free will still exists, but once I make that decision, it's like, I can do this or I can do that. So isn't that the Bechira in general? That's really my question.
Free will, yes, definitely is not something that's a final product. It doesn't have to come to reality, and it can kind of stay in your head like the forces stay up there, and whether they manifest into something practical is another step, yes, for sure. But just to add a little bit to what you're saying, once Adam sinned in the Garden of Eden, the process of free choice became one that's full of darkness. Prior to that, it wasn't a question of choosing between good and bad. It was a question between choosing one good and another good. But the concept of bad was always external. Once they sinned, that changed and it became internal. So now we have within us that darkness, which blurs our vision, which kind of puts everything into a grayscale, and it's kind of hard to know exactly where things fall. It's on the good-bad scale. Okay. So, he now just finish up his thought over here. The idea, the concept of this source of evil, it includes all sorts of different powers. Through them will come down to this world the concepts of lacking, kulam, and all the bad things, and all the different manifestations that they come out in. Both that which applies to the soul, and that which applies to the body, with all the different parts and pieces in order and the way they're set apart, set aside, the way they work, that's all organized. We'll talk about this more in the second part of this book with Hashem's help. All right, we will stop here. It's a good stopping point. Okay, so that was fun. So we'll see everybody. I'm not telling you. No. If you weren't paying attention to where we stopped.
I was totally paying attention. Calm down.
So we will not be meeting the next 2 weeks. Next week is Pesach. And the following week, I will be traveling back. I will not be here yet in the morning. I'll be back on my way from Chicago, Mr. Shemus, and we don't get a snowstorm, which is entirely likely. But otherwise, I should be back Sunday, but not in time for class. So we'll see everybody in 3 weeks. Everybody have a wonderful Pesach, and understand that the chametz, the rising of the dough, that is symbolic of the kaiches hara. That's what it's symbolic of. It's symbolic of the ego, of things growing, of things getting out of hand. And that is what we were talking about here. So avoid the chametz, get it all in now while you can, and then sell the rest to a guy, let them have all that stuff. That's for them, and avoid it on Pesach. Have a wonderful Pesach. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rabbi.